The title of this book is A Christian New Birth. It is written by our beloved brother David Powson. We are in chapter 3 of this book, the first part of this book, chapter 3 of this book, the first part, chapter 3, subpart 4, chapter 3, subpart 4. John recorded an interesting exchange between Jesus and the crowd. They asked him, "What must we do to do the work God requires?" And got the reply, "The work of God is this, to believe in the one he has sent." God, John chapter 6, verse 28 to 29. A modern evangelical might have replied, "You mustn't even try to do any work. Simple believe," but that will be an oversimplification. To believe is to obedience to the faith. God, Acts chapter 6, verse 7. New Testament faith is very practical. It is a great pity that the word work has taken on such a negative connotation, especially so amongst those who built their theology largely, if not entirely, on Paul's teaching. The word is actually quite neutral and take on a positive or negative flavor only by association with other concepts. It is vital to realize that Paul usually refers to work of the law and emphatically discourage any thought that this can bring merit in court or even be properly achieved, especially in relation to justification and court acceptability to God. But third, we cannot possibly be saved by such work in God, Ephesians chapter 2, verse 9. Paul is equally emphatic that we are saved for good work in God, Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10. We can become so obsessed with the wrong concept of work of the Lord that we become blind to the right place of work of love, good work, and in the present discussion, work of faith. For the word work simply means action. It refers to putting something into practice. It is in this sense that James rightly says that faith without work and God action is dead in God, James chapter 2, verse 20. That it is quite useless for saving anyone. He is not contradicting Paul, but is complementing him when he adds, "You see that a person is justified by what he does and not by faith alone," in God, James chapter 2, verse 24. Quite wrongly thought to be in conflict with such texts as Galatians chapter 2, verse 16. Paul is thinking about work of law. James is thinking about work of faith. The example James chooses to illustrate his point got the prostitute Rahab and the patriarch Abraham showed that he is not even considering moral achievement, but were risking their whole future because they trusted God. And God, all this is fully developed in chapter 28. James is forcefully underlining the point he has made early in the same chapter. That cradle confession by itself fell short of saving faith if nothing is done about it. He points out that the demons are also sound monotheists, yet are not believers. In God, James chapter 2, verse 19. Paul and James will agree that justification is by a work of faith alone. It is faith in action that saves. It is faith in action that saves. There is another New Testament writer who makes a profound contribution to our understanding of this practical aspect of faith. The anonymous author of the Epistle of the Hebrews, see chapter 27 for the background and purpose of this unique letter. Hebrews chapter 11 is a classic exposition of the nature of faith, not just what it is, being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see, in verse 1 of Hebrews chapter 11, but mostly what it does, translating the invisible into the visible, the future into the present, the heavenly into the earthly, the there and then into the here and now. The example he gave are all work of faith. What men and women did because they trusted the Lord. Abel offered the right sacrifices. Enoch walked with God and got all the way into heaven. Noah built an ark. Abraham left his home for a tent at 30 years of age, made love to his earthly wife, and was willing to kill his son. Isaac and Jacob both left property to their son, which was not yet theirs. Joseph made arrangement for his own funeral in a land he had not seen since his youth. Moses' parents risked their life to hide their baby. Moses himself left a palace to lead his enslaved relative into a trip between an army and the sea. Joshua marched around city wall, Rahab hid the spy, etc. There is not a word about how they thought or felt about their faith, just what they did about it. Thought all these examples are from Jews' history and got appreciated for a letter to Hebrews. They are model for Christian faith also, and indeed are waiting for Christians to catch them up. God, verse 40 of Hebrews chapter 11. Their inward confidence in the future was proved by their outward conduct in the present. In other words, faith is not just accepting the truth of God's word, it is acting on that truth. There is always an element of risk involved. If it is not true, there will be future loss. If it is true, there will be future gain. But the action of trust and obedience must be maintained until faith turns into sight. God, not the wonderful statement in verse 30. All these people were still living by faith when they died, which means that perfecter of their faith, the one who started it off and finished it off, the one who went to and through the bitter end for the joy that lies beyond. In Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 to 2. The emphasis on that continuity of faith begins in the Old Testament, when Habakkuk feared that the impending judgment of God in the form of the Babylonian invasion will fail to discriminate between the few righteous and the many wicked people in Israel, God assured him that the just shall live by faith. In God, Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 4. The word translated faith is not frequent in the Old Testament, and in very other contexts, it means faithfulness, fidelity, keeping faith with someone. In God, the Hebrew word is emunah. In God, the Hebrew word is emunah. It is something that is said to be broken if it is not maintained. The word live in this context means simple survive the coming judgment. Just refer to those whom God, not man, account as righteous in his sight. So we may paraphrase the text in Habakkuk. Those whom God account as righteous will survive the coming judgment by keeping faith in him. The prophet himself was one of those who keep faith with the God of Israel throughout the disaster, even when the Babylonian invader destroyed all the tree and animal, as was their ruthless custom. In God, Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 17, Habakkuk chapter 3, verse 17 to 18. This golden text of Habakkuk is frequently quoted in the New Testament and became the rallying cry of the Reformation century later. When used by apostolic writer, the stress is always on the continuity of faith and became the rallying cry of the Reformation century later. When used by apostolic writer, the stress is always on the continuity of faith, keeping faith with God. It is for this reason that Paul quotes it, and God, by faith from first to last, or more literally, from faith to faith. Romans chapter 1, verse 17.